So hi guys, and welcome back again to another coffee chat and to the YouTube channel Reiki Zen. And today we have the lovely Cora, who got in touch with me with through Telegram, with some other healers that are on there. I think the group was called Awakening Therapist or Awakened Therapist or something like that. So Cora is in the same practicing therapy as Kaz as we had yesterday, but we're gonna talk a little bit more about the higher self and Cora's healing journey and how she's gone down this process of healing. So so say hello, Cora.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you for having me on. It's a
Oh, you're
pleasure to
welcome. No,
meet you.
thank you for joining in and wanting to talk a little bit about your journey. And I mean, we'll go into obviously what you do, the therapy that you do, and you can advertise yourself a little bit and talk about your website and basically how you've got to this point, what brought you to the here and now. So I'll leave
Yeah.
that over to you.
So, well, I was just going to say, so about 5 years ago, I moved house. So I've always been interested in like esoteric type things, and I've always been aware that like I've got sort of a connection slightly to the higher aspect of myself. I wasn't really aware what that was. So I used to do dowsing. I've done it for many years, sort of using a pendulum with a piece of paper with the letters around it, and just sort of asking sort of for guidance and receiving it, and just being aware. I wasn't really aware then. I don't think that that was the higher aspect of myself that was giving me guidance, and because I didn't really have that strong mental connection, like I couldn't psychically receive messages,
Mm,
so I was using this paper to give me guidance. And when I moved house, it kind of led me using this pendulum, and I was using a map, and it sort of led me on the paper. It sort of gave me the connection with ley lines, because I lived on the Michael Mary ley line anyway, and it gave me the
right.
connection to the ley line. And then it kind of guided me to the general area that I'd be moving to. And at the time, I was thinking, well, that's really weird. I mean, I don't really want to move over there. That's miles away. But when I tried to move to a different area, it was just blocked, and it just wouldn't happen. And then this house just kept coming back to me, and I ended up here. So,
Ah, right.
and it's
So you've been
slap
divinely
bang
guided.
on a ley line.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, so that's kind of my first experience of connecting with sort of higher guidance and getting messages. And
and
then,
how have you how have you found obviously you've started using the dowsing technique and working with the dowsing. Have you found that you've created more of a connection intuitively to messages of the higher self, or do you still use the dowsing technique?
well, that's what I was going to come to, because it's kind of all part of the explanation of what I was going to let you know about with the healing process that I've been through. So when I started, I was sort of always interested in past life regression, and I found Dolores Cannon with her new Earth material and on the
Mm,
two Earth split. And then I found Alison Coe, and Alison Coe is another fantastic past life regressionist that has some amazing sessions, and a lot of it focuses on the new Earth and the ascension and the split. And some of
yeah.
the stories are amazing. And then I found Laura Whitworth, and I started listening to hers, and hers is all, she sort of goes into quite a lot of elemental realms. So she has stories of fairies and dragons and all sorts of things like this, which like is quite far fetched and fantastical. So it's really quite hard to believe that any of us have ever had these lifetimes in these elemental realms. But as I've
Mm,
found out since I've started doing sessions myself and for other people, like all these things exist and are out there. So,
mm, mm,
but with the connection to the higher self, since I've been doing these sessions, I've been having various sort of entities and things removed from me, and using this modality, and also with a practitioner called Claire, who is, where does she work? What's her website? So Circle of Light Healer, and she does aura healing. And the aura
right.
healing sort of does much more of a, it allows you to do a very deep look, and it kind of removes layers, so you can see sort of the very deep type of stuff that's there. And that's
Mm,
when it gets really, really woo woo, because they're kind of like implants within you. So there's the archons, which are the dark race, which are kind of battling with the light forces on Earth, which is a whole other subject. But they'd kind of placed a plate above my head, and I could feel it energetically when I did body scans. I could feel it in there, and it was linked down into my stomach, and then linked down into my into my root chakra, and then there were wires going down my hands, and it was kind of this really intricate system which he removed with the help of the archangels.
Mm.
And since then, I've actually been able to, when I was dowsing, I was noticing the messages were like, as they were coming through and being spout out, it was coming into my mind. So I was getting the message to my mind, and then the dowsing was sort of confirming it. But
Mm.
literally in the last week, I've been able to just channel my higher self. I'll sort of sit and I'll ground and I'll protect. I'll put source light around me and just ask that only those that support my actual highest good may enter, and then open my
Yeah.
crown chakra to source, and I can just sit there and ask questions, and then I've just been scribbling down the answers. So I've got some quite profound messages. So it's been quite a
Wow.
revelation. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, that's really, really good. And the fact that you were able to connect to that, and it's the whole learning process. I mean, when we talk about like healing, I think people tend to get that confused with healing in a medicinal sense, whereas when we're talking about healing, we're talking about the whole picture, every layer of that person, mind, body, and spirit. So being able to eventually work through them layers and be able to then listen. I mean, this last sort of week or two, I've been like really on point with a lot of information that I've been given people, and it does fluctuate. It goes up and down, and some days you don't get as clear communication as others, and that just part and parcel of it, of what's going on. But that's really, really good to hear, and really good to know that that you've gone through these various layers of development and progression. And so do you think a lot of that stemmed, and it obviously has because of your healing process, but do you think a lot of this discovery has stemmed within yourself because of the practice that you started learning with regards to the soul center healing and all that goes with it?
Yeah, it's definitely accelerated the process because I was aware sort of, because I used to have psychic readings, and a psychic pointed out to me about 5 years ago after I'd moved here, and I sort of came across some quite nasty neighbours, and was finding it all quite upsetting. And she sort of pointed out to me that forgiveness was the key, and at that point I kind of was a bit kind of like taken aback of, oh, I've got to forgive these people, they've been so horrible, and I was still in that victim mode of sort of, oh, poor me, it's all awful. But to then realize that it's not myself that they're
Mm.
targeting specifically, it's them, it's not
Yeah.
my healing, it's not my problem, it's I'm just like, and how I perceive that and how I react to that is my responsibility. So when you
Yeah.
sort of come into that neutral observer perspective, and you realize you're not a victim, like
Mm.
you've got the power to react in any way you choose, and you can react out of love. And so that was sort of the beginning of it. But through having these hypnosis sessions, it enables you to connect in with your higher self. So
Mm.
obviously, like, we all are fractals of source, we fractalize, we come down, and this
Yeah.
fractal, like the highest aspect of myself will be my higher self, and that is sort of like maybe a 13th dimensional being, sort of say up
Mm.
here, which then fractalizes again. So there'll be many other souls which are also a fractal of this higher dimensional being. And
Mm.
then as that soul, that I am, that one fractal of that being, as a fractal of source, I then have all these different life experiences which I choose. And in the quantum field, all these lifetimes are happening in the now. But all
Yeah.
of these experiences we choose, like, we might set ourselves up for, like, in this lifetime, many people have chosen like some really tough things because they want to get all their life lessons done. They want to get it wrapped up because
Yeah.
the earth's now ascending and splitting, and it's not going to be here any longer. So they're kind of like, let's cram it all in. So lots of people have had like loads of trauma and quite awful things to overcome that fear, and to learn
Mm.
forgiveness, and to sort of remember their connection to source. So it's
Yeah.
quite
And it's one of them things as well where like you say about like understanding forgiveness and talking about that and allowing you to forgive other people for even if it's like for past traumas or what might be going on in present, and trying to explain that to somebody who may not be on the same wavelength as yourself. How would you try and put that across to them? I mean, do you think it would be for them to know that? Do you think it's not something that they need to understand in this lifetime or in this learning journey? Because
Well,
for a lot of
yeah.
people, I mean, even awakening people as well, I think it would be something, if they're on their early path of discovery of self-expression and wherever they're going, just to say, oh, just send out forgiveness, send out love to that person. Don't hold on to that. Don't carry a grudge. Don't carry the hatred. Don't carry the anger for whatever the situation may be. How do you think people would resonate with that and take that on board?
I think like the higher self, when it guides you through these past life regressions, like it will tend to show you other lifetimes you've had where you've maybe in some situations, like you may have come across this same pattern that you're trying to heal, same things that you're trying to forgive. You might play this situation out with a soul, and then you might not have done so well. So you'll both like kind of go back up into that sort of quantum space, and you'll kind of make a plan for new life contracts where you'll then come down and you'll try and do that again, do it better. So you give each other the opportunity to learn, and maybe somebody's sort of not being so nice and someone's like in the victim mode or whatever, but it's kind of like a play. You're playing it out. You make these contracts and then you come down
Yeah,
and do that. But the higher self will sort of show you other lives that will maybe connect to your life, and you'll maybe see one life, you'll maybe see two or three, and there'll be a general theme, and then there'll be a message, and you'll it will kind of very gently give you that guidance as to where you need to heal and what things you need to be looking at this point in time. So it kind of
mm.
really gently assists you to do that. And what we find, because I know that Kaz shared this with you, like the metaphysical anatomy, but I found
Yes,
some
yeah,
amazing correlations, like with physical conditions that people have had. And this book, it links the physical condition with the emotions. So you kind of look up the physical condition. And when I've looked up the emotions that are related to that, and like the lifetime experiences that can result in that physical illness, the correlation between what the client is describing about their lifetime and their experiences and what they've sort of suffered or sort of what they've gone through is so profoundly accurate. It's just amazing. So it's like a lot well, I think all of the time physical illness is a manifestation of our mental state and our emotions, and if we can heal our emotional state,
yeah,
then we literally can heal our physical bodies. So
yeah, yeah,
but
absolutely. I
quite a
mean, it's
challenge
something
to
that,
do.
yeah, well, it is, especially in the 3D world, and the things that we get kind of thrown in our way, or whatever we may have to deal with, especially, and that's just in our own lives, without putting things like mainstream media into it, and politics and all this other junk that we have to we have to try and like deal with it in life, which I think a lot of people now, again, with this awakening ascensioning process, a lot of people are just kind of like pushing that back and just realizing that actually their own lives are much more important and they need to focus on that. I know there's a lot of bad stuff that is going on, or what we're being told that is going on. But presently, what can we actually really do about it at this exact moment? And it's all
Mm.
about that understanding of, like you said, bringing your emotions into it and having some sort of level of control, and not getting too carried away with it all. I know, like yesterday, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, when I was talking to somebody where, some people will sit all day just watching mainstream media or watching the news, and they're
Mm.
just filled with all that parasitic energy which is coming out of the TV onto them, and it's washing over their body, and subconsciously they're storing all this stuff, and it's making them feel worse and worse and worse. And then they wonder why, by the end of the week, after all this rubbish that they've been fed, has made them feel so bad, and they can't really grasp it. And again, it's
Mm.
this connection to this emotional mental attitude of how you can heal yourself and keep yourself on like a high vibe and even keel, and being more self-aware and present.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday, like with the mainstream media and the way that they actually are master manipulators. A lot of the sort of things that they do, they've done research into the psychology behind it. The same way we were talking about the CIA actually invented neuro linguistic programming, which
Mm,
is kind of a way to subliminally control people through the things that you say and by suggestion. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
remembering back to the 80s when they used to. Do you remember when they used to, like? I don't know if you might be a bit too young, but they used to flash up like images like buy Coca-Cola and it'd be gone there and gone so quickly you couldn't even see it. But that
Yeah.
would imprint into your mind. I think now
Yeah.
they're not allowed to do that, but they still have done their research into how to manipulate people's emotions, how to
Mm.
create fear, how to sort of like just in the way that wearing masks is going to make you more socially acceptable and you're a caring person if you do it. So it's kind of making people do what they want, but doing it in a way that they almost feel like if they're not doing it, then they're not caring about their relatives and loved ones, and they're
Yeah.
somehow like yeah. So it's just a whole lot of manipulation that
Oh,
once you sort of trust your own gut instinct and you're
yeah.
aware, then you
Yeah.
don't get sucked into it. But
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
people
Absolutely.
just
And in
trust,
every
trust,
aspect of,
trust, and they don't trust themselves.
yeah, yeah,
They
every
hand their
aspect of
power
that as
away.
well. It just creates the divide, doesn't it? It just splits people apart, and it's this divide and conquer thing that they're trying to use. But I think a lot more people are now like aware of it and are waking up to what is really going on. Um,
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for people to sort of go within, I think, and to actually start to just as it becomes more and more apparent that people are possibly being manipulated, and even people that are following the narrative, things just don't add up, and there's lots of
yeah,
trigger points for people to awaken and to kind of go, hang on a minute,
yeah,
and they have to
it
start to trust
makes sense.
themselves then. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, they have to start listening to like, well, that, and kind of, even though they're using the mind, they're like kind of rationalizing it and just putting two and two together and getting six, and you're like, there's something not quite right. What's going on there? Yeah.
yeah. Apparently, we all chose before we came here, like as souls, we have our soul contract. We
Mm,
chose whether or not we wanted to awaken to everything that was going on. So it's kind of a soul's choice. So we kind of
yeah.
like being in judgment of like people that maybe aren't seeing it. It's quite hard and frustrating sometimes when it's people in your family or something, but you've just kind of got to step back and kind of go, that's their sole choice. That's a contract. That's what they've chosen to experience in this lifetime, and just kind of respect that, which
Yeah.
makes it easier somehow. It's kind of
Absolutely
that's
bang on with that. Yeah. And I think a lot of people at the beginning, I think a lot of people were getting very frustrated with it. They were getting very frustrated with friends and family who couldn't like see what they could see and what was going on. Whereas
yeah,
now, like you say, a lot of people have kind of stepped back from that. They're just allowing it. And like you say, it's not their time to awaken to whatever is going on. And we just have to be understanding of that and accepting to, because at some point, and another reason why I'm doing these coffee chats and why there's a lot of information with regards to helping yourself and self-development on my channel as well, is and it's all about this process of leveling up and awakening, and how we can help ourselves.
yeah,
Because I think as we go further down this process, there is going to be a lot of people that will come to that point, and they'll be like, well, am I going crazy? What's happening? What's going on? So then
mm.
they'll need people like us to give them that guidance, to give them a little bit of assistance to move through it.
Yeah, it's healing the mind really, and you've got to start. Like when I started having my sessions, I was sort of think there were things that I thought that I'd forgiven, which I then saw like went back lifetimes where it hadn't
Mm,
been done quite so well, and I hadn't really forgiven it back in that lifetime. And then I had trauma from past lives, which because it's all happening in the now, that trauma
mm,
can bleed through, and you're still feeling that very much so now. So if you kind of can consciously go to that point in time and understand it from a higher perspective and heal that emotion and release it, then it kind of all assists you in this sort of here and now. But I had a
yeah.
little message that my higher self channeled, which, because like just recently, I had a client who had an amazing session on the new earth. And to me, it's kind of, I've always treated it as a little bit of a concept. It's kind of like, yeah, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, who knows?
Mm,
But it seems to be coming through more and more now. And
yeah.
just this whole ascension thing. And it's in a way, it's like, for me, I'm just getting my head around it really. It's kind of, it's all a bit weird and all a bit too woo woo. And it's like this client in the session, literally, she just disappeared one day. She was walking down the street, she just vanished. And then she was just suddenly on the new earth, and she was in a light body, and she was describing like where she'd gone to. And I was like, whoa, that is quite extreme. And she was very unaware that that was going to happen and she was going to bring this forth.
Mm,
But the whole concept of ascension and shift, this planetary shift, and like the two worlds split, so the world's dividing into light and dark, is something
mm,
that Dolores Cannon talked about for ages. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment, just in terms of my my current point of focus. But I had this message, and because I haven't been getting these channeled messages for very long, I thought it was quite a nice thing to share. So I was just asking, what is it important for humanity to know at this time? They are all a spark of source, working their way back to source. We are all one. Why do we need healing? We have forgotten our connection to source consciousness. What are the key elements for humanity to heal? Forgiveness, love. Remember who you are. You are perfect immortal beings of light, and all is forgiven and released. Unity consciousness will heal your planet. You will ascend as one. I am the overseer of the overseers, and I guide many souls on earth, and you are all connected. Let go and trust. We are here, supporting with love. There are many of us here at this time, and this is the Great Awakening. You have support at this time. All will know the truth. All will return to source. There is no death. Death. You are infinite. Go in peace. We are one. What should the collective know about New Earth and the two worlds split? It is happening now. All is in the now, but in your linear time you are fast approaching the final event. Have no fear. It will be glorious. This has never happened before. All will be love, peace, and harmony. It is time. The darkness has had its way for too long, and it ends now. This is all. Go in peace. Heal your minds. Return to source. We are waiting.
Wow.
I've I had kind of like I had a message from my own session just telling me to go and plant vegetables and, and get lots of food in, because there's something coming and it's going to be quite
Mm,
quite dramatic. I just had this sense of immense sadness. So I mean, I know
yeah,
that with a lot of these messages of doom and gloom have been coming through for quite a while, and I think a lot of us have been going through these phases of preparing and getting things in and thinking something was imminent,
yeah.
and then it doesn't happen, and we all kind of go, oh god, I've got so much pasta in the garage.
Yeah, yeah, same here. I got loads of pasta in it, and then my partner was like, "Why have we got so much of this?" I'm just like, "You'll thank me one day, don't worry."
Well,
I don't know.
I'd kind of sort of did this ages ago, and when I was on the whole truth of bandwagon, thinking it was something to do with all of that, but well, I've got the message again, so I'm now thinking like it's going to be 6 to 9 months, and I might need to buy more rice. I might
Mm,
need a bigger sack of rice. I don't know.
I think
Be
it was
prepared.
last year, because it was 2022. So last year, I think it was last year that I was thinking 2022 is going to be a big year, and I did let a lot of people know that who I'm in connection with, who are on this sort of path as well. And I've said to a lot of them, 2022 is going to be like kind of like the pivotal year. It'll be the make or break moment for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And I think the way it's shaping up at the minute is there's so much truth coming out. There's so much light being shone onto the planet. There's so many things being exposed.
It is
Yeah,
utterly
so
crazy,
many,
isn't it? It's utterly
yeah,
crazy.
so many systems that are breaking down. There's so much that's being fired at the populace to try and keep this kind of level of fear.
That's what it
Um,
is. Yeah, it's
but yeah,
just when.
it's just breaking down so much, and
Hmm.
and it's one of them things that unfortunately, yes, in the 3D we have to kind of like experience it and go through it, but on the other side of the spectrum of things, of the way things are going to be or become for so many people, will be a much more beautiful thing. And that's what came out on one of my videos when I was talking. I did like a tarot read of current events and what the future holds, and the last two cards were like, it was like a rebirth. It was like a new beginning, a new start, all this new energy. It was
Hmm.
about balance, and it was really, really good. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the first cards were quite dark, and it showed all this all this sort of like turmoil and fighting and
Ah,
hardship
right.
and bad times. But the end two cards were like really, really good and really positive. So yeah, it's
Yeah, we need to focus on that bit, don't we? Because it is a little bit daunting, really. Like when you're told like 6 months of utter chaos, and like apparently
yeah.
my soul chose to experience this so that I'd learn how to stay calm and in the neutral point during adversity. I'm like, I don't like the
Yeah.
sound of adversity, really. Could I skip the adversity and just jump to the new earth?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Whatever
it is.
that may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, you have a website where you work from as well. It's a Corridor Healing.
Cora Joan Healing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
Um,
very good at thinking of names. It wasn't the best name I've ever come up with, but yeah, that's my website. I've been offering sessions by donation, and I'm kind of quite booked up now, but I'm going to carry on sort of taking a few more clients for the next few weeks, but then I'm going to take a little bit of a mini pause because I'm starting a new training course. I'm doing the aura hypnosis healing course,
Yeah,
having
yeah,
experienced it myself. I kind of think it's something that I'd quite like to be able to do. So yeah, so I'm going to have
yeah.
a bit of
And
a
it'll
break.
be something you can add to your accolade of other
Yeah,
things that you offer on the website as well. Um,
yeah. But I just wanted to kind of try and get the sessions available to people that maybe are on a limited income, because I've kind of spent a lot
mm,
of my life poverty stricken, and I know what it's like when you're quite poor
yeah,
and you look at a service and you think, I can never afford that, and you just keep trying to save each month, and then you have your car break down and you can never quite
yeah.
afford it. So yeah, it's
And I mean, the way things keep going up as well, price wise with things,
yeah.
it does create a lot of imbalance in that sort of energy aspect of things. Um,
Mm,
yeah. So yeah, it was a really interesting chat I had yesterday with Kaz, and obviously we talked about what she does, and it's obviously a similar field of, well, it's the same field of work, really,
yeah, we
that,
trained with the
that you
same person. Yeah.
so, and Laura Whitworth, when I checked on your website, because I had a look on there just to do a little
Hmm.
bit of research before the chat, and Laura Whitworth came up again. So she must be
Yeah.
quite. Is she the creator of this form of therapy?
Yeah, so she trained in quantum healing hypnosis, which was the method um, that Dolores Cannon sort of originally created. So she's like
Yeah.
the guru of all of this. She's the one who first started doing these hypnosis sessions and finding all this stuff out and sort of using it for healing. And then after she'd trained with that, that was at that point she started finding like energetic attachments and entities which were blocking people, and she got the bejeebers scared out of her when this dark demonic entity literally started speaking through a woman, and she didn't know what to do because she hadn't had any training in it, and this horrible dark voice was cackling at her and cursing at her, and she literally just called in her teams of light, called in the angels, because she didn't know what else to do, and this thing
Mm,
left and it was released. But after that, she just like started reading everything she could on the subject to try and figure out what on earth this thing was, because she'd never even heard of it before. She didn't even know it was possible for it to happen, and she
yeah.
developed the technique to be able to release these entities. So, I mean, I haven't come across anything really dark, but I've come across earthbound entities, and what we've discovered, there's a lady called Heather. I don't know what her channel is, but her channel's beautiful, and she's recently been training with Laura as well. But she discovered from one of her sessions that a lot of the time we're like contracted to carry these entities, because they attach to us when we go through something in our life that can cause like trauma,
Mm,
and so you and that fractures your aura and allows them to connect. But when you talk to the entities when they're being released, you kind of say, how long have you been attached, when did you attach, and what allowed you to connect? And it might have
mm,
been like a feeling of fear from a certain thing happening, and they find someone else that has had that similar experience and they're attached to them. But what it does for the client is it amplifies that feeling of fear, so you're connected to the fear of that other being. So it might not be your fear you're
mm,
feeling that, but it amplifies it, and it shows it to you so that you can then heal it, because you're aware
right.
of it. It brings it to the forefront of your attention and allows you to heal it. And then for us as obviously practitioners, then we'll kind of figure out how it got there, and we'll kind of guide it back to the light,
Mm,
and then assist it to be released. But some of them are really sweet. I had one that was hung because they'd obviously done something really bad, and it must have been
mm,
some time ago because hangings aren't happening now. But when I told it that there was no judgment and it would return to source, and like there is no judgment, like everything's
yeah.
always forgiven, and he was like, oh, I didn't realise that. And when he
Yeah.
got back to
No.
the white light, all his family were there, and like he just felt really tearful
Yeah.
that this soul had been just clinging on to the earthly reality because they didn't feel they were worthy of anything more, and they
Oh,
still had all
yeah.
these fears.
Yeah, and a lot of that is again is instilled from older generations and older times of people that I suppose maybe they're still on the path of religion, and still have this understanding of heaven and hell and all the good stuff, and all the you do all this bad stuff, and it's all you get
Yeah,
all the demonic stuff and what have you. So again, it's this kind of level of control of people's thinking, and how they, but like you say, this what happens, there's no judgment. You move on, you go to the light. And I know, I think it was Sal that I spoke to, and she does like past life regression, and I think it was her that was saying about, like, if you have done bad things in your life, then basically you take into a place where you kind of like, because you have to experience that in your existence, you kind of, your soul is then like kind of washed of all that, and then put back to source, and then put back to wherever it needs to go to experience the next level of learning, of understanding. And I know, talking to Kaz yesterday, she'd explained some of her experiences, not that there was many of these sort of dark entities, but she said every single one of them have like a spark of light in them.
Yeah.
And she said it's basically letting them see that spark of light and letting it shine within them, and then they become, and they go back to source. And again, that, when she was saying that, I thought, wow, that's just like really quite beautiful,
Yeah,
the
it really
you know
is.
yeah
A lot of them have been manipulated. The only ones that don't have the spark of light are archonic, and the archons are kind of
mm,
the AI type thing. And that's a whole other thing to look into. But they've
yeah
manipulated lots of other beings, these archons. So they've kind of a bit like we're being manipulated by the media and stuff. They've
mm,
manipulated them to be their minions, to then sort of do things to the human
yeah
race that we're not necessarily going to benefit
yeah
from. But yeah,
mm,
but when you get back up to source, then you kind of, I think, as my understanding from like books that I've read, and you kind of have this life review. So you experience everything negative that you may have done. It's kind of like every time you've withheld love from another human being, you then experience it from their perspective. So you kind of get to experience it all firsthand. So you understand exactly the way that you've behaved and what you've done, how that's affected other people.
mm,
So it's kind of like, and then you make your choices to come back down to earth and maybe to experience that the other way around,
mm,
so that you can really learn as a soul what that feels like from the other side. So that's kind of where the karma comes in. If you've done something really hideous, then as a soul you would then perhaps agree to come back and to experience that yourself, so that you can learn and grow from the experience. So I don't know
yeah
exactly, there's a book by Michael Newton, I think it is, like Life Between Lives, that kind of
mm,
goes into that. He uses hypnosis to go into that in between life stage and have conversations with the souls while they're in that stage. And they talk about their soul groups. They have these like kind of learning groups of souls where you're all kind of like, you come together and you sort of have these meetings. So you're kind of all supporting each other.
yeah. That's a book that Sal mentioned, Life Between Lives, Michael Newton. She'd mentioned that one because that's something that obviously she'd worked with regards to this form of healing as well. So I thought,
Hmm.
and I kept that, right, I must remember that. I must remember that. So I've just
Yeah,
written it down so I don't
it's on
forget.
it's on YouTube. There's an audio version. It's on my website. On the first page, I've put the link to it because I thought it was really interesting. It's
Ah,
a
right,
slightly
okay,
robotic voice when they're reading it. It's a
yeah,
little bit robotic, but it does read the whole book, and it's the entire book unedited. So yeah, just makes
yeah,
it easier for listening to in bed, so you don't have to do anything. It's very lazy.
yeah, yeah. That's good. I mean, I love putting things on you, like even if it's just like rain meditation or whatever. But even sometimes, like sleep stories are really good, just for
Yeah.
zoning out and calming down and going to sleep.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, obviously, we like going back to like the soul center healing hypnosis. Do you think? I know Kaz said yesterday that she thinks sometimes people get like a bit sort of scared of the thought of being hypnotized, or this form of hypnosis, but it's not really hypnosis as such, is it? It's kind of like just getting into the theta wave band of the brain. So how would you like explain that?
Yeah, because I'm not one really for sort of watching trash TV, so I haven't had much experience of sort of like online hypnosis. But lots of people have pointed out that all the hypnosis you see online, people kind of turn into like zombies and they start jumping around like monkeys and things like that. So they're being like, apparently what they do in those situations is like, some people are really suggestible. So if you say to them, you in hypnosis, that you can't open your eyes, they literally won't be able to open their eyes. So what they
Mm,
do in these stage settings is they'll just sort of test people, and they'll find out the ones which are most open to suggestion, and then they'll use those as the case studies. Because some people, when you go into hypnosis, they'll, for instance, be somnambulistic, which means that as they're experiencing that lifetime, they won't be seeing it from an observer point of view. It'll be like they're fully submerged in the experience and they can't rationalize it. So if someone's coming at them with a knife, they'll be just like, oh my God, there's a knife. Whereas
mm,
other, like I would just see it as, oh, I can see that that person's being stabbed. Or
mm,
as me, I can see myself that I'm being stabbed, but I can see it from a very neutral perspective. So I won't necessarily feel the terror that's involved with that.
Yeah.
So in the same way, but most people will just be sort of seeing it almost like a daydream. So you just in this very relaxed state, and then they'll start to see images, and then we'll talk them through sort of just sort of help them to link into that more by asking them questions. So it's just we're just like kind of guiding them by asking questions and asking them to look down at their body and to see what they might be wearing and to sort of sense where their home might be and what sort of things they might be eating for dinner and sort of what the relationships with people are like. And then you go to another important day, and then you go to the last day in the lifetime, at which point you return to source. And when you get to source, then you see it from a higher perspective, and you can see why you chose that life and what lessons you learned in that lifetime and how that might be relevant to your current lifetime and what guidance there'll be.
So is that something you would call higher self-questioning?
That would come at the end. So what we do is we ask, once you get back to source, you can see it from a higher perspective, so you get more of an overview. But when you get to the very end of the session, you do like higher self checks, and then you ask the higher self questions. And once you link into the higher self, they sort of seem to be even more wise at that point. So you've got like, they know your whole soul history. They know every lifetime you've ever lived, and they know why. They're the ones that have guided you to see that lifetime. So, and
Yeah.
they know the reason why they've shown you. So they're going to sort of hopefully, I mean, some people struggle to connect at that point, and they don't have the trust in themselves to sort of allow the messages to flow through them. And
Yeah.
I was one of those people myself. When I first had a session, I was kind of like, well, it's just me here. I don't know the answer to these questions. Why is she asking me? But it wasn't until I listened back to it that I'd been doing teacher training at the time, and she'd said, and what's Cora Jen's purpose? And I'd said, healing, and I kind of had no idea where that came from. And she was like, and would that help her with the teaching? And it was, the higher self was just kind of like, well, it won't do any harm.
Yeah.
But and when I listened back, I was like, what did I say that for? Why did I say healing? That's so weird. And then obviously further down
Yeah.
the line, like all of that teacher training and sort of teaching through COVID, and I was doing online presentations and Zoom, all of that was just really preparation for what I'm doing now. It was giving me the confidence and the ability to use all this technology and to be able to sort of speak to people and connect with people without sort of having the fear that I probably, and the sort of lack of self-belief that maybe I once did.
Yeah. And obviously calling your website Cora Jane Healing, which is which is quite that's the message really, isn't it? It's like, so what does Cora Jane want to do? Healing, Cora Jane Healing. So yeah, it's quite profound really, that and you don't really need to give it any fancy names or think about that. It's just there. And if people want to look for that, which is going to tie in with my next question, then obviously they can go for that. But what sort of, do you get a sense of the type of people that come for soul center healing? Are they of a certain aspect? Are they at a certain point in their lives, or is it a mix of people, or is it just people wondering what it's all about?
I think some people come and they're not really convinced that there is such a thing as a past life, but they might have like a chronic condition or an illness which they've tried everything to heal, and they kind of are getting to the end of their tether and they're willing to try anything. So that's sort of causing them to be open-minded, but they're kind of, I mean, some of those people do have really strong connections and have some quite good messages come through, but even then they haven't got the belief in the method, so they're not necessarily going to get the most out of it. But I find that if they can trust and believe the messages that are coming through, that it sort of will kick start that healing process for them and maybe pinpoint sort of some of the triggers to what caused the illness. And then other people, like I've had people that are looking to train in doing this modality themselves, and they've never had a session and they're really interested, and there can be some quite spiritual people that are quite enlightened. But everybody, I think we all have healing to do. I know that I still have things on my
Yeah.
checklist. I'm kind of more aware of what they are now,
Yeah.
but still got fears to release.
Yeah.
I still vape. I vape, and it's one of those things I was asking the other day. Will I be able to ascend if I vape? I'm just like hoping they'll be like, yeah, go on, go to New Earth. You can take your vapor with you. It's like, no, you need to release the fears that's making you continue doing that. And once you release the fears, you will stop with ease.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
that's funny.
yeah, I know. It's not good, is it? It's like, I'm a hypnosis specialist. I shouldn't be doing these silly things.
Yeah.
But that's next on my list. But I think once I stop, then that will be when those fears will surface, and then I'll have to confront them, deal with them, release them, and then move on
Yeah.
from that. But
I mean, if someone was wanting to do some like this form of therapy, I mean, even when I've explained to people about Reiki and about the Reiki journey and their levels of healing, you know, sometimes it can be like quite a quick fix, and other times it's working through many different layers, which is similar to, well, it's all pretty much the same thing, really, working through these energetic layers of within people. But do you ever get sort of an intuitive sense, because obviously now that you've got a clearer connection with your higher self and messages, so anyone that comes to see you, do you ever get like an intuitive sense or an intuitive feeling of why they're coming to see you, or what they might need on their healing journey? Or is it just all in that moment when you go into the hypnosis?
well, we obviously do the client chat in advance, so we have an idea of their backgrounds and their sort of history, and then look up any medical conditions. But like literally, I will call in my guides, and I'll call in their guides, and I'll call in the archangels, and I'll just call in sort of the whole team of light for support and assistance. But
Mm,
literally just leave it in the hands of the higher self of that person, because everybody has this like wise aspect of themselves that knows themselves better than anyone, and
yeah.
they are completely in control of what they feel that person needs at that time.
Mhm.
So that's sort of really the decisions are like, I don't know what's going to come up and what lifetimes are going to come up. I have started asking prior to the session, just for myself to be prepared, what may come up, what's causing this condition. And I've had a few
Mm,
things that is kind of just giving me a heads up in a few places just to assist, but I'll never
yeah.
know what the lifetimes are going to be and what we're going to see, and what
Yeah.
aspects they need to heal at that time. And sometimes I thought it was sort of current lifetime issues that cause their conditions, and because it seemed to correlate. And then they've told me no, that was her fear and trauma from her time in Atlantis, which is causing her backache, and that's
Right.
something she's carried through. So like,
Mm.
even when you think you might know, you still get surprises.
Mm. Yeah, I know I've like talked on a few of my videos about Akashic readings and readings that I've been to, and I've had two done so far. Akashic readings, they've been absolutely fascinating. I mean, the first time that I went, she did say to me, you know, have you got like, I hope you got an open mind. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah. And then when she started talking about all this stuff, and I was just like, well, it kind of like blew me away, and I was just like, I had an open mind. Well, I thought I had an open mind, but obviously now I know I need to open it a little bit more.
I love
Um,
people's Akashic histories. What did she tell you
yeah.
about your soul history?
Oh, I mean, the first reading was quite crazy, but I think the first reading was more like getting to know me, getting to know my soul, and what was going on. But originally, I was originally from like a totally different galaxy, but eventually came to our solar system, and I was on the way over. I was at Sirius, so I was a Syrian being at one point, and
Okay.
then
Do you know if it was A, B, or C?
oh,
A,
I have
B,
no
or
idea
C?
about
Don't
that.
know.
I had no idea about that.
I
I
was
was
in
just
Sirius too. Perhaps we knew each other there. You never know.
I mean, when she said that, I was just like,
Were you
oh,
from
okay.
Lyra? Were you from Lyra originally?
Lyrian, yeah,
Yeah,
Lyrian.
so that's really common on us, Lyrans. I was from
Yeah,
Lyra, and I also stopped at Syria after the Lyran Wars. Our planet was exploded, and then we stopped at Sirius B. Yeah.
yeah. So the planet that she said, that was planet Marduk, that I eventually went
Ah,
to,
right.
which
Okay.
was which is obviously the asteroid belt around
Yeah.
between Jupiter and Mars, and that's when that was blown up. And she said, after that, you've come to Earth, and you still have. I was still holding on to some resentment because of this galactic war that had happened with this explosion. She says you need to let go of that before you can move on to do these other different things.
Hmm.
And then she said, when you came to Earth, you worked with light and sound and vibration, and you were a scientist, and you were aware that you could move things and do things with light and sound. And she said that's how you worked. I helped build the pyramids and different structures around around the world. And I was all right, okay. But then I was just kind of like, but then afterwards, I mean, I listened. I mean, the reading went on for about an hour, and there was just so much information that I was blasted with. And then I listened back to it over. I mean, it was about just over 2 years before I went back for my last reading that I had.
Hmm.
But every time I listened back to it, I was just like, I don't remember that. I don't remember saying that. And obviously that's messages for me at that time
Yeah,
to take on board, to listen to, because I'm
yeah.
more aware of it.
Yeah, it's
And
funny
then,
how that sort of little different things stand out at you when you're ready for
yeah,
that message. It's
yeah,
funny, isn't it?
it was just like I did not have any memory of it whatsoever. And I'd listened back to this recording 5, 6, 7, 8 times, loads of times. And then
Mm.
and then obviously thinking about it, she said there's a connection to Sitting Bull and Native Americans,
Oh,
which I
me
know.
too. I've got that too.
Yeah, so I
I've had
mean, I have like,
loads of incarnations over in sort of Native American
yeah, I mean,
times.
I think
Yeah.
I've had like maybe 2 or 3 Native American incarnations, but I know one of my spirit guides, she's a Native American and a High Orcan, and she connected to me after my Reiki One attunement, as well as the wolf and the eagle. But on my last Akashic reading, she did also say, she explained about this lady, this High Orcan Native American, but she did also say there's a very strong male energy that works with you as well, which she
Mm.
said you've also got. She said that Master Kathumi came in and said, thank you for all your work that you do. Loads of, and this last reading that I went for with her was a lot more interesting, because the first reading, there was just like sheets upon sheets of information that she was reading from that she'd obviously written down. But
Mm.
this last reading, she only had like a small little piece of A5 paper that she had the odd word on. But the
Mm.
majority of the reading that she did with me was more spiritually guided. So she was like,
Mm.
she was speaking to people that were in the room with her, and how it was lovely, and it was amazing to watch her work, and she became quite emotional, and then she had to go away just to sort of like get rid of that and then bring it back, and then she understood why she felt the emotion, because of these different lifetimes. And she talked about me being tortured, and how
Mm.
this, she actually said before I got to her house for the reading that there was a lizard being in the house, and she was like, what's he doing here? I don't want him, get rid of him, yada yada yada. But then when she started to like sort of like work out why he was there, she said that when she started crying, she understood that because of this torturous event and where I was in this lifetime, it was actually someone that kind of, it was within this sort of lizard race, but there was one that wasn't conforming to what they wanted. And she said,
Mm.
it's him that was here that helped you release and escape. So she said, once you
Ah.
escaped, you ran away. He helped you do that, and that's why he was here. I was just like, ah,
Mm.
right, okay. But yeah, I mean, and then there was loads of connections with Greece, France. French Revolutionary War was a big one, and Scotland. Um,
I
yeah,
think I must
loads.
have had lifetimes in Scotland because I've got this longing to go there all the time of just like, ooh, Scotland. I don't know why.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
funny. I just
I'd love to go myself. I've never been. I mean, I think that, well, I've been to Edinburgh, but that
yeah,
was it.
me
It was,
too.
but that was just for like a gig, and then came back home. But that was it. But yeah, but
I'd
she
like to
said,
go around all the Western Isles. It looks so beautiful.
yeah. Well, she'd mentioned Fingal's Cave, which in my first reading she'd mentioned that I was connected to Mendelssohn, and Fingal's Cave,
Is
and then
Mendelssohn a musician?
yeah,
Mendelssohn. Yeah.
yeah. And then in the last reading, she mentioned Fingal's Cave again. So I was like, right, okay. I don't really know where it is. I haven't looked for it on a map, but it will be interesting
Ooh.
to find out where it is. But yeah, I mean, there was loads and loads of information.
It's amazing how many different experiences we've had, isn't it? It's just
Yeah,
fascinating. Absolutely
yeah.
fascinating.
It is, again, it's this quantum thing. And she did actually say in this last reading that I had, she said, because of your the way your vibration is now, because you're resonating on such a high level, she said you can actually access the Akashic files if you wanted to, for yourself, to actually go and see them and adjust them,
Yeah.
change them.
You can
So
buy books about it because I was told that as well. So I bought a book and I did try it the other day, and that's when I connected in with my higher self. And I didn't really
mm,
have enough questions, but I think it's not actually as difficult as you think. You just need to make sure you ground and sort of protect
yeah,
yourself, and then
yeah,
you just do a little prayer to open it and make sure you sort of say thank you and then do a prayer to close it. But I think if you've got what I found was I was just sitting there kind of waiting for the information to come and nothing was coming at all. It was all a bit blank. And then I got a book and I sort of wrote down my question and then the answer came to me and I just wrote it all down. So I was kind of like with my eyes open, just asking the questions and then writing the answers down. And
mm,
I didn't get a lot of images, but I got
Yeah.
like the odd sort of image here and there, visual, even as I
Mm.
was writing with my eyes down. So I was like,
No,
it's
I
not that
asked her.
difficult actually.
Yeah.
But obviously different people would experience that in a different way. It's when these people that have been doing it for years do it, they kind of seem to get all these images and visuals quite easily and quickly, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it was just like it's just like I'd heard that like as soon as you give her your name and whatever information she needs, it's just like there, and she
Yeah.
just starts getting the information straight away. But I did message her and I'd said like, you'd said about me being able to do this work and go into the Akashic and whatever. So I said like, how do I do it? Where do I start? And she said you can either just ground yourself and go into a meditation and do it that way, or she said you can ask before you go to sleep, to do it in sleep state as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I did try it probably about a week ago. I didn't really sort of get much really. I got a few images, but they were kind of like really incoherent and random,
I
really.
think I think you have to have very clear things that you actually want to know and a purpose for sort of being there. So if you've got like really clear questions,
Yeah,
then that can be answered. So it's all sort of like that's kind of like your free will. So you have to be so if you ask, then they can give type thing. I think that's
yeah.
kind of how it
I
works.
mean,
So
I know your suggestion, like about the writing and just putting the questions down. That would be a good place, I think, to start as well. But
yeah,
she did say as well, like in this last reading, she said, just so you know, you are going quantum. And I was like, right, okay. So, and then obviously doing these chats, this is making me think, right, this is this next level of connection, or there's this quantum thing, and to have three past life regressionists or soul center healing therapists to get in touch, and I'm like, is this a message? So,
well,
so
that's what
I'm
I found so amazing because we did the course and like Laura puts you together in like your groups and excuse me, and then you get the opportunity to then exchange sessions with people to practice. So I've had
mm,
so many sessions myself. So I've seen like lives in Lyra, I saw the Lyra Wars, I saw my life on Sirius, and then I've seen like countless lives on Earth and all different locations, and you get to experience all of these. And then I've been fairies and dragons and what
mm,
else? Elementals. I was some sort of a weird pixie. I was from Babylonian times being tortured. I mean, sometimes you sort of see lifetimes where you've done something horrible yourself as well. It's like I think you have to be quite a brave soul to actually to allow yourself to see that and to acknowledge it,
yeah,
because most of us just want to think that we've been love and light the whole time. We've never done anything
yeah,
horrible ever for the entire of
yeah,
our billions
I
of years
know,
of
yeah.
existence.
If only that was
But
the truth.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
saw a life where I was sort of subject to serial ritual abuse. It was sort of Babylonian times. I was a small boy that had been kidnapped, taken by these beings under the ground, and all I saw was kind of red lava and like a guy with horns and some sort of wolf skin, and I was in chains, and it was all quite horrible. And my higher self didn't actually show me any torture, but I kind of got that there were blood rituals going on. And then towards the
feeling,
end, I kind of got that, hang on a minute, I've kind of grown up and I feel like I'm one of these people now. And so, and I didn't find out until someone else sort of clicked in or sort of linked into that for me that I'd actually been forced to take part in doing these rituals and drinking this blood, and then I'd become sort of one of the people that did that, which is all quite horrible, really, isn't it? So
mm.
you don't. I think my higher self just kind of saw that, and then kind of I jumped on a horse and galloped off into the distance and became a cowboy instead. It's like
Yeah,
didn't really want to go there, didn't want to see that. It wasn't very nice.
yeah. I'll become a cowboy and just ground a little bit. I need to get
Yeah,
all that. Yeah.
it's like I quickly pelted it off into a different lifetime, jumped across to another one. But
Yeah, it really is fascinating stuff. And like you say, the information that I mean, even for me, like at the time, I just thought, well, it doesn't really mean anything. But she did say to us, anything that doesn't really resonate, that's what you need to work with.
hmm. When you
So yeah,
see it for yourself in the quantum
yeah,
session, you can actually see it and it's like you're there. So like being on Sirius, like I was like a woman and I could see sort of this whole area that was all set out. It had like beautiful green crystals and white crystals, and there was water sort of being poured, and like the Lyrans like can turn into white cats, so with grey spots. So I saw this huge white cat with the grey spots, but I was just a woman in a dress. And I think you can kind of shape shift because in that dimensionality in that planet. So I think you could shift between being a cat and a human. I didn't really see my face as such, but I knew that I had long hair. And then I was
yeah,
just sort of seeing various. But when you're actually there and you're experiencing it, I mean, obviously your human mind is interpreting that, so you're kind of using your knowledge of what you know now, and you're sort of it's going through the filter of the lens of sort of what real life is here, or what your
yeah,
own sort of reality is here. So you kind of, it's kind of is down to your perception of what you're seeing, but it's really fascinating. Spaceships and people in suits, and Kaz had a
I know.
funny one. She had such a funny one, wasn't she? I think she was a mantis being, and she was like in a cafe, and she was going to meet up with her mates, and like, and one of them came, and she was just like, he's just a giant blob. He was literally, and it sounded like something out of Star Wars. They were just in this cafe, and there were these three beings, and they were all completely different. And like, this blob, they were all drinking these green sort of drinks, smoothie drinks, and what else? And yeah, and they were sort of comparing jobs, and like he was a cleaner. It was just like, and they all so look forward to going to this place. It was like this space station where they all met up, and it was just the things that you hear and see are just so funny.
Like Deep Space Nine, isn't it, or something
Yeah,
else? Star Trek or something
yeah.
like
There's
that.
just like anything you can imagine is possible. It's just
I know
amazing.
she mentioned when she mentioned to me about being like connected to the lion beings and being a lion being from like Lyria and those them races. But at the time, I had quite long hair and I had quite a much bigger beard. And she said it's funny. She said
Ah,
it's funny looking at you now. She said I could see the lion being in you because of your hair. It looks like a mane, and you've got like
yeah,
the beard. So yeah, so that was quite interesting. But she said it's also funny how you've always had like dogs, but obviously you connect to cats
mm,
as well. So she said it's funny how you've got that connection. But yeah, just the way it is. We're really interesting. And again, even not just soul center healing, but if anyone gets the chance to be able to find someone that can do them an Akashic reading, it would be really interesting for them to find out so much more about the soul.
yeah, yeah. I had one because I'd seen all these past lives, and I just kind of wanted to get more of a clearer picture of my galactic history and where I'd originally come from, and so to piece all that together and see sort of how your soul sort of moved through these different incarnations and when you chose to come to Earth and how long you've been here, and it kind of gave more of a broader picture, and it was really fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really good. Well, we've we've
I think
covered an hour just about. It's absolutely flown over. Um,
yeah, that's been
yeah, I mean,
interesting, hasn't it? It's been very
I'd love to do
interesting.
another chat at some point in the future with you. Just about anything really, anything that you want to talk about. I think me and Kaz are going to have another chat again in the future as well, about art and artwork and her art process and how she kind of like connects and how a lot of it is just kind of channeled really and intuitively brought through. So yeah, it will be interesting to talk about something else. But yeah, if anything else you want to talk about today?
No, I think we've kind of covered it all really. It was, I think, my higher self just kind of wanted to get through just to making people slightly more aware about the new earth and what might possibly be about to happen, sort of in terms of just for people to be prepared. But
Yeah, I know
and
Claire.
we never know for sure, do we? But it doesn't do any
Well,
harm.
no,
Doesn't do any harm to be a little prepared
well, that's
emotionally
it.
and
That bit of knowledge
practically.
is a bit of power, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and I know Claire Thackeray, who I chat to quite a bit on these chats as well. She talks about the New Earth quite a bit and the Matrix and the Ascension on her channel as well. So yeah, and she has a Telegram group as well. But yeah, it's really interesting times.
It
And
is. It is.
we're obviously discovering lots of interesting people as well, and again, that's what these coffee chats are about, is about bringing this connection and these people together. So it's been fantastic for you to jump on and to share your wealth of knowledge with regards to soul center healing therapy, and obviously your own journey and your own level of awareness of and where you're at now.
Yeah, it's all just so fascinating. We've got so much, there's so much more to this earthly domain or to us, ourselves than we've ever been
Yeah.
led to believe. It's just
Yeah,
fascinating to find all these things out, really, isn't it? I just
yeah,
want to know everything. I just keep reading and watching things and
yeah.
just trying to
And
find out.
everything that you thought you knew just falls away. It just goes straight out the window because
Yeah.
you start to tune into yourself. You start to tune into your soul. You connect to your higher self, and you start finding about all these different forms of healing, of therapies, of progression, of development, of learning, and
Yeah,
it's like yeah, it's just a wonderful journey.
it is. Yeah, it's been lovely to talk to you. I shall
Yeah, you too as well, Cara.
go
But
away and
yeah,
feed my
until now, I'm
children
going
now.
to I'll we'll leave this here, but I'm sure we'll connect again in the near future.
Yeah, and I'll let you know after I've done my next bit of training. And yeah, if you want to have a session, I'm happy to do you one. I'm like, let me know how your one with Kaz goes,
Yeah,
how your
yeah.
experience goes.
I'll keep you posted with regards to that one, because I'm looking forward to that. And like I say, she's having a Reiki session from me, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll
it
probably be
would be
posted up anyway, won't it? I'm following your channel now, so I'll keep an eye on
yeah,
the things
yeah.
that you're doing. And
Hopefully
also,
I'll be
oh, carry on. Sorry.
sorry. Hopefully I'll be able to get the video that Kaz does as well, and I'll be able to record it so then I can put it on my channel, so then people can experience my my regression
Yeah,
process as well and listen to what I've got to say. So yeah, that would
yeah,
be really interesting.
yeah. That would be good. That would be good. It's always interesting to hear. I was just going to say, because I heard you say I can't remember where I heard you say it. Might have been in Kaz's interview, that you've got like a chakra rebuild and aura seal sort of meditation.
Oh, the meditation, yeah, that's on my channel.
Yes, I'm gonna have to have
That's
a listen to that because I was searching frantically through all the different YouTube videos trying to find one to send to a client because I hadn't had time to do it for them in the session because they had
yeah,
ME and they got too tired and they had to quit the session early, and I felt that she
right.
really needed to do this, so I was trying to find one that she could do online just to make sure that
Yeah,
she was all like aligned and her just to make sure
yeah.
her aura was sealed really. So I'll have to
Yeah,
listen to your one.
I don't know how many video. It's quite recent, the chakra balancing meditation that I did. So it's probably within the last 10 videos that I've done.
Okay.
So it should be on there. But I've put like I think it's like a picture. It's either a picture of a person with like obviously the chakras going down the body. I think that's what it
Ah,
is.
right, okay. Did you do
So
the aura reseal as well? Did you seal the aura, or is it just the chakra balancing?
it was just chakra balancing, and then it was obviously
Okay.
just seeing your light shine out from your energy, from your being.
Yeah, I guess
Um,
that is kind of your aura, really, isn't it? Just seeing that
yeah,
light shine out. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, so I hope you look forward to that one, and let me know what you think of it as well if you do it yourself.
yeah,
So yeah, but anyway, I shall let you go. But
of
yeah, lovely to
course.
see you, lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, it's
And
been really
um,
interesting.
have a wonderful, wonderful day, and speak to you again soon.
Okay, take care then. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye
Take
bye.
care.